Hey, parents and teachers. In this video, I'm going to respond to Kristen's question here. And the question is this: how do you address imposter syndrome with a teenager who's finally finding some success, but they don't feel like they belong? And that it's rooted in that I didn't study the right way that everybody else studies. All the kids who don't have ADHD, the way that they study, like I didn't do it that way. So, what is up, parents and teachers? My name is Seth Perler. I have a summit called TIFOS, the Executive Function Online Summit for Compassionate and Proactive Parents, Teachers, Therapists. And the summit's coming up. If you haven't checked it out, go ahead and sign up. There's a link below. I also have a site called sethperler.com. And I'm an executive function coach. I work in the executive function or diversity ADHD 2E worlds. And let's start here. For this teenager with imposter syndrome, what is imposter syndrome? Well, when we have imposter syndrome, we all have it. You have had it many times. I have every human being, we have it. It is when we're comparing our insides to everybody else's outsides. We're thinking that we don't know how, we don't feel confident about something. We feel like we're faking it, and everybody's going to find out that we're faking it, and we really don't know what's going on. Well, the truth is that nobody has it figured out. Nobody knows what's going on. We're just doing the best we can. And some people have had more experience and gained confidence because they've tried. It's not the other way around where they're confident and then they try. It's that we have learned to walk through fear, experience fear, and do the thing anyway and try. And that's how we gain the confidence. And that's how we grow in whatever area. And I would suggest the same thing with a student. They might feel like they didn't belong. And meanwhile, in this video, I'm going to give you one thing to do and one thing not to do to really support this kiddo. But this kiddo is really feeling like, okay, I don't have a lot of experience being successful in school or studying. I'm seeing all these kids that seem to be doing it this way. So comparing my insides to their outsides, it seems like they're doing it this way, like they're following some rule somewhere, some magic rule book that they got that I didn't get. And I'm afraid everybody's going to find out. And I'm afraid that I'm going to find out that I'm not doing it right and that I'm worthless and that I'm not okay and I'm not good enough and all of these sorts of inner critic dialogue things that we all go through. So this parent is saying, how do I address this with this student? So I think that for me, talking about that, nobody has it figured out. The principals, the teachers, bosses, parents, politicians, nobody has it figured out. We're all doing the best we can do. That can be very relieving. And and I want to tell you again what not to do and what to do. The thing that I really want to say that I try not to do when I'm working with students is not to fix them, not to enable them, not to solve it for them. They need agency. They need practice with this. They need experience. They need to, and what we tend to do is we want to fix it. We don't want to see this kid suffering. We know they're starting to have successes. We know that this kid is really learning cool ways to study, and it may be in a different way than the other kids, but it doesn't matter because they are growing, they're learning, and they're doing great, and they may not see it, but we see it. So we want to lecture them or show them or help them understand that or convince them or use logic and reason and try to prove it to them. So that's the fix it, the enabling, they're suffering and we don't want to watch them suffer, so we're going to tell them all the logical reasons that they should not feel the way that they feel. That's not our intention, but that's what we often do as adults, is we lecture and try to get them to see the light. And I do not do that. I may do that if it's going to be received at some point, but that is not how I start when I'm working with kids. Why? Because it does not help. The reason it doesn't help is because when you're having that dialogue, then the kid or the adult says, "Yeah, but blah blah blah," and then we respond with, "Oh, but you got to understand, it's not that bad," or "You're doing great." Yeah, but blah blah blah, and it's just a side. There is no two-way connection in that sort of a conversation. Why? Because the person in that situation, the student in this case, is looping these mindsets, these thoughts, these stories, these narratives, that these limiting beliefs that we have, this inner critic stuff, and it's just looping. It's in an emotional state. It's an emotional response. It's a fear response that I'm afraid, and it's just looping and speaking out these fears in a way that's not helpful usually. So I don't go there. I don't try to fix. What I do, and this is what I can recommend, that if you want to try this is how I like to approach it. I like to use reflective listening. So when they're telling me this stuff and I have this temptation to be like, "Oh, but you're doing great, but look at all the great things." Again, I can say that stuff if it's going to be received. And usually that's way down the line in the conversation. But what I start out with is the reflective listening. Wow, that sounds really tough. Wow, tell me more. I want to really listen. Like, I want to be listened to. If I'm telling somebody something, I want to really show them that sort of presence. Wow, that sounds really hard. That sounds challenging. Wow, what's that like for you? Wow, what's that feel like in your body? Wow, what's it like? Tell me more about that. Wow, how do you think they're going to respond? What might they do? Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, what's the worst thing that can happen? Oh, what's the best thing that can happen? But it's a curiosity, a true curiosity and presence for that person to, when it comes to attachment theory, which I talk about a lot in my work, to help them feel seen and heard and understood and known. So I'm going to really listen. Okay. Now, if you're taking notes, one of the things that I do like to say, one of the sentences that I say a lot to students is this: wow, that sounds really hard. What are you going to do to solve that problem? That is very different from me fixing it for them and telling them how to solve it, giving them advice, telling them what to think and how to think. I'm saying, wow, that sounds so tough. I get that. I've been there. What are you going to do to solve that problem? How are you going to solve that? What's that going to look like? And I don't know how that, maybe they'll have ideas, maybe they won't have ideas. If they don't have ideas, my temptation is going to be to give them the ideas. No, no. Wow, no, take your time. Think about it. Tell me more. I'll come back in a few minutes. You want to talk about it tomorrow, tonight? You want to talk about it right now? Do you want my thoughts on it? What are you going to do to solve that problem? They need agency. They need to know that we believe in them, even if we don't act like it. We need to believe in them. We really do. These kids have great solutions. Their ideas are amazing. And if they tell me something and in my mind I'm like, yeah, I know that's not going to work, I'm just going to ask, cool, tell me how that's going to work, rather than tell them that it's not going to work. Like, I want them to discover. I want to be like, tell me more. Tell me, how are you going to do that? How's that going to work? And I want them to discover, and they do, that, oh, yeah, that's not going to work. Oh, okay, what would you do instead? They will come up with the ideas. So often they will. Now, so I start there a lot of times with, wow, what are you going to do to solve that problem? Then I go into this question for those of you taking notes is, awesome, how can I help? How can I be helpful? Not, here's how I'm going to help. Here's how I should help. Here's how you should let me help. Here's my advice. How can I be helpful? And they may say, oh, don't do anything. Or they may, it really depends on how much they trust you at this point. But when they know that your help is not suffocating them with advice and lectures and things like that, they're going to be able to eventually start saying, can you help me with this? Can you help me? What do you think of it? They're going to be asking for help. So with the reflective listening, again, what are you going to do to solve that problem? How can I be helpful? And we do want to build on these successes. This kid's in a great place. Things are turning around. This is actually a scary time. It is uncomfortable for kids, for me, for you. It is uncomfortable when we start having successes and we've not been used to it. That is a new feeling for a lot of people. So that being uncomfortable, it's so important to hold space and just be like, yeah, tell me about your experience. What's that like? Now, with metacognition and introspection and reflectiveness with executive function, which is my area, with building reflectivity, we do want them to notice what did work also. So in this sort of dialogue, what are you going to do to solve that problem? We can also be asking something like, wow, well, what has been working for you? And they're like, well, when I study and I do this and that, that works for me. And you can be like, that sounds like a really cool idea. I love that. That's a great way to study. Their studying can be very different from others. In fact, the way that other students are studying, if you check out on the summit, one of the Gretchen Wagner talks a lot about studying, but they're very unconventional ways that work better than traditional ways. So, and also, I really like when I'm working with students for them to understand how, in this case, this ADHD kid, how interesting and cool and neurodivergent and fascinating their brain is, how awesome their brain is, and find what the strengths are with their brain. So anyhow, those are a few things I wanted to mention. My name is Seth Perler with TFOS, the Executive Function Online Summit at executivefunctionsummit.com. Free summit for parents, teachers, therapists. And at sethperler.com, if you like what I'm doing, give it a thumbs up, share it with people, share this video with people, and leave a comment below. If you have a child with imposter syndrome, who is finding success and they feel like they don't belong and they're not doing the things the way everybody else does. What ideas do you have? Again, my ideas were don't fix it. Use reflective listening. Help them come up with a solution, unless they ask you to help fix it. But really, don't fix it for them. Really listen and hold space. What ideas do you have? What works for you? Anyhow, I want to wish you peace in your heart. I want to wish you joy, and I want to wish you connection with the people in your life, particularly the kids in your life. Have a fantastic day. Again, please share this around if you like it, and take care.